Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. With your permission, of course, I'd like to give one more minute for additional people to join. I see more people are joining us for this webinar. So we'll give them one more minute and then we'll start our webinar. So I'm excited to welcome you all to our webinar. My name is Boaz Barzel, and I'll be taking you to a journey beyond static application security and introduce to you the OX Active ASPM. Now, this is not just a release. It's really a new approach to application security. We are also opening this webinar for questions, so please ask away. I'll dedicate the last part of this session for your questions to answer them. And I'm also welcome you all to visit the OX Security website to learn more. There's new design, a lot of cool things that we've created for you in the website, so feel free. And let's start and deep dive into Active ASPM. Now, before we really get started, I would like to focus on the mission that OX Security takes upon itself. And that mission is to eliminate manual AppSec. Really straightforward, really simple. And the reason we chose that mission is because we are seeing that manual AppSec processes are creating considerable disruptions in the software development lifecycle. And they're dramatically slowing down the pace of innovation in application development. The second part we're seeing that happens because of manual AppSec processes is that hiring and retaining skilled people and commenting that reliance on the manual processes is really not sustainable. It's one of the causes to have, processes that takes a lot of time, a lot of organizations really kind of thinking about that turnover, hiring additional skilled people, and they're looking for solutions around that aspect as well. So our goal here is really clear, is to eliminate the dependency on that manual AppSec practices that really hinder that speed, scalability, and innovation that we're expecting to see from businesses today. I want to focus a little bit about the different problems that we're encountering them to really get us to understand what drove us into that active ASPM approach. So the first thing that I'd like to focus is really on products that are being released today that are still released with critical vulnerabilities. What it means that in spite of the effort that security teams and DevSecOps teams and development teams are running today, at the end, those released products still carry those critical vulnerabilities, sometimes knowingly, and most important, sometimes unknowingly. So those vulnerabilities really missed any kind of discovery, analysis, or remediation process of the organization. The next part is really about triaging issues. This is still done manually. We still need to find the right person, to need to correlate manually information from multiple tools, going out to the web and searching for threat intelligence, and really to understand what we need to do in order to fix a problem, but then we also need to chase developments in order for them to give us the attention and actually fix it. There's also constant friction because of that. Now, that friction between security and dev is always there. And one of the reasons is that, it might take a lot of time for security team to bring an issue to a developer, and it's really close to the release, and they don't really have a lot of time to fix it. Or the information provided to the developer is incorrect or inconsistent. Maybe it be based on a false positive or any kind of action that gets the developer to lose trust with the tools, with the different teams. It's really hard to find those skilled people and then to support the different siloed tools. It sometimes feels like we are kind of grinding water in a sense and trying to find something that is really hard to find when we're working manually and the information is not connected for us. Now, these types of tools all share information differently, sometimes in a different language, and we really need that skills and expertise in every specific tool to be able to bring out the most out of that tool. And what we can see is that we're still missing a lot, and we're still missing those critical risks that are being released eventually. Security backlog. The more manual operations we have, the more security backlog, because what we're seeing is that security teams are, of course, much smaller than the development team. And every time a developer builds their own code, either copy it from something else, brings a library or package, or write their own code, their mind is not around security. And it takes some time until we're able to identify the critical issues, go back to development, remediate, fix them. This whole process really creates a lot of backlog for everyone, not just for security or development, but for the entire organization. And then we're in another place where we're looking at regulations, at compliance. ASPM is one example, but there's more. We need to be SOC certificate, we need to be ISO certificate, PCI, and so on and so forth. And one of the problems is when we're going to audits, some of those issues that we've released have effects and implications on those audits, on those framework or compliance standards, which can, in the, I would say good, but it's not good, element is getting fined. And we don't want to pay fines. But in the worst case, we're going to lose that certification. And losing a certification is actually worse than not having one, okay? Because then questions why you've lost that kind of certificate, and it really drags a lot of problems for the entire organization. So these are the problems that we're seeing, that complication that we're seeing on different organizations, different teams. And then when we're looking at the market, we're seeing reports from Gartner as an example, where 70% of platform teams will integrate AppSec tools to scale DevSecOps practices. And it's not far away. It's 2 years from now. This is a cool vendor report that we've were part of the cool vendor in that specific report. It was released in July last year. And really what we're seeing a trend towards integration of AppSec tools and DevSecOps practices. But we really want to take it a step further. Okay, we really want to tackle the root cause of the problems, which are the manual processes. So let me introduce to you the OX Security Active ASPM platform. And before I deep dive into everything, and I promise there's also a demonstration up ahead, I'd like to talk about it. So the first thing that you'll see is the ability to see everything across the pipeline, which means that we're unifying all the information, consolidating it, collecting it throughout the pipeline, from the code to CI/CD, registry, and cloud elements. Our ability to divide it and curate the information to the different categories to really help you understand the risk aspects. The second part that we'll be bringing in that is the ability to understand the information, correlate it between the business context, attack context, your environment context, pulling in threat intel from various sources, triaging the information for you, and really consolidating different security issues to understand the root cause of what I need to do to solve it. So instead of just showing you problems, we are showing you what you need to do in order to solve a lot of these problems that we were coupled down together, which means that instead of sending multiple vulnerabilities for development to solve, you're sending one or two, but just by solving that, you're actually solving tens or even hundreds of other vulnerabilities. And finally, the ability to prevent risk at scale from code to cloud. And this is what we're also providing you with, really the ability not just to eliminate a lot of the manual AppSec practices from triage, but also from the different workflows, the response and remediation aspects, but really get the ability to prevent the risk at scale as the business grows, as we're bringing more developers, not necessarily more security people. Then we want to be able to be to scale everything we're doing from a security perspective, and not to be caught up with the fact that I need to hire skilled people, which is hard. I need to buy more tools, or I need to try and do something from that perspective instead of telling the business, listen, we need another week, 2 weeks, 5 weeks before we can release that piece of code or application. So let's talk a little bit about the pillars, and I want to give you examples. So this is a sneak peek into the demonstration that I'll be delivering later. So when I say really see everything, I'm talking about the complete coverage. You can see in the middle part our pipeline bill of materials. And this is a way for us to be able to expose to you everything that happens in the pipeline, all the different vulnerabilities, all different security issues, and not just vulnerabilities. We're talking about posture issues, secrets, we're talking about container issues, and so on and so forth. So you can really see that across the entire pipeline, but not just that, even each issue, and I'll dig into that later, each issue, we're creating an issue graph, an attack path visualization to really help you capture the entire issue in one place. Instead of moving between different tabs, reading different arrays of text, you're seeing that with your own eyes, and you can respond to that from that screen. For every issue, we're showing you the different severity factors. So this is the way that we can show you the different contexts we've collected. So we're looking at your business, we're collecting the context from there, we're taking your environment context, we're collecting that, different attack context. For example, let's say you've imported a package. Is that package actually used? Is the vulnerable function being used? Is the environment that is running, for example, in that container, has the variable needed for the attacker to actually exploit that vulnerability? We're taking all that information and we're showing you the different severity factors to help you understand the OX prioritization and why we've decided to do it. It's also to help you to provide justification for when you go to the development team and you can show them exactly the reason why this issue is critical and has to be fixed right now. But the last part is we're allowing you to build no-code workflows, which means that it's not complicated. It's actually really easy. I'll show it later on. It takes less than a minute to build that kind of workflow and start responding to multiple issues in a few minutes instead of wasting a lot of time, manually open tickets, sending Slack messages, open PRs, and so on and so forth. We're also doing something that can help you further and map everything into Oscar. Oscar is developed by OX Security in collaboration with experts from Google, Microsoft, GitLab, and it's a MITRE ATT&CK-like framework, which uses the same tactics, but the techniques are software supply chain security techniques. And what we're able to do here is show you the exposure from an attacker perspective. You're able to create that common language between the teams. You are able to analyze your vulnerabilities, your risks from the attacker's tactics and techniques. So it really means you are able to understand the exposure, but also collaborate with other security teams in order to mitigate issues. So for example, you had a risk and that risk was released. It's right now exposed, running in your cloud. It doesn't mean that you're completely at risk and there's nothing to do until development fixes that. It means that if I know the right tactic and technique, I can talk with other security teams and get them to mitigate the risk through other means like network security or application security, additional tools that I have. So it really helps you to map everything, contextualize the risk, and help all the teams, not just yourself, to focus the attention on the attacker tactic and technique and try to mitigate that across the organization until development will fix it. So once development fixes the vulnerability or the risk, it doesn't exist anymore. That's the best option. But sometimes we don't have that kind of luxury. The next part is you're probably asking yourself by now, okay, that's very fine, that's fantastic, it's amazing. What are the use cases? You know, if you're asking me, so why should we go and talk with OX in that sense? So the first use case is really around asset and risk visibility to get that single source of truth. Instead of either doing it ourselves, which takes a lot of time, creates a lot of maintenance, integration. Every time there's an update, every time there's a change, we need to work very hard just to maintain what we've built. And it really helps you to immediately understand the risk. The next part is around the consolidation of your security infrastructure. We can help you reduce the reliance on third-party tools. And this really is amazing because it's not just the tools, it's also the information. Instead of looking at long lists of vulnerabilities, we're consolidating it to security issues that you're able to face, and you're able to understand that if you save or if you remediate one issue, then you're actually creating a larger impact. You have more influence, more impact as part of your operations. With CI/CD posture and workflow automation, it's more than just vulnerabilities. It's the actual security posture, which means, for example, that your Git has 10 admins. This is a problem, okay? It's not a vulnerability, it's a problem. You don't want as many admins on your Git, or you don't want them to fork, which means create a copy of your code somewhere else. You want to prevent it. You want branch protection in that sense. And there's other things and other examples which are not directly a vulnerability, but that situation, that posture element that you're in right now can create issues later on. Maturity assessment and compliance. We can really help you understand the current maturity and how to take it to the next level of your AppSec program. We can also help you with different compliance standards, regulation, and understanding of every issue's effects on your compliance. So if compliance is really important for you, then you want to know the effects of every issue that you're about to release on the compliance, especially when you're going into audits. Continuing around that, you're all familiar with ASPM. And one of the main aspects here, and I'll take an example of an attack like Log4j. When Log4j happened, organization took months just to understand where it is used and which are those packages that are vulnerable and I need to update. With OX, it's really is a matter of typing Log4j, and that's it. And you'll see all the packages across your entire organization. But most importantly, you'll see the packages that matter most to you that are vulnerable and the recommendation of OX on what you need to do in order to solve that vulnerabilities. And finally, production integrity. You want to know exactly what's going from your code to your cloud. And you also want to know if something goes into your cloud that didn't came from your environment, your code, your CI/CD pipeline. It can be either, I would say an innocent user that chose to have their own CI/CD process, or they just put something in the cloud without going through those guardrails that you have. Or it can be even an attacker that decided to put their own container, deploy it in your cloud, but it didn't really came from your CI/CD process. And just a little bit, before we jump to the demo, just a little bit about the results that we've been seeing the past year from customers that have been using OX. So we were able to take remediation time, or mean time to resolve, from weeks to days, in some customers, even hours to resolve. And then the coverage that we're providing is really broader coverage from design to production. We can see that the onboarding, it took 5 minutes. So they connected it, it's agentless, it's API based. The scan started automatically. The mapping is done automatically, triage done automatically. So really, it reduces a lot of the security load, a lot of the time that it takes to solve an issue. We see 40% increase in resolution of critical issues. It's really big. We've also able, with the no-code workflows, to cut 70% of the manual AppSec work. And with fewer alerts, less noise, pipeline scans that take less than 2 minutes, you can really start addressing the actual critical issue, reducing the noise, reducing your security debt, and really make an impact in your organization. So let's go to the demo. Let's start having that demonstration. So what you can see in front of you right now is the OX security platform. And everybody can open their own account. The ability to do so is through a website. You can just click Start Free, create your own account. You have 21 days of free trial with everything open. All the capabilities, everything that I'm going to show you right now, you can do. You can run it side by side with your current system. It's running beautifully. So let's begin and try to understand how OX does what it does. The first thing I would like you to focus on is really the pipeline bill of material, the centerpiece of our dashboard. It maps everything from the source control, CI/CD, registry, and cloud, and it shows all the different issues, the security issues across these sections. Now, one of the most important things to understand is that it can also help you understand what is connected or not connected. So you can see different icons in the PBOM with a small broken link. That means that we are also able to discover different tools in your environment that might be running but are not connected to OX. In the connectors page, you can see that we have a very large support. And this is part of our architecture. We've built OX to be able to connect to many different tools, from commercial tools to different source controls and CI/CD elements, registries, cloud, and more and more. And we're keeping adding those really, really fast. We're also very strongly adding anything that our customers are asking, and we're kind of deep diving into that because we really want to make sure they have everything they need within the platform. The next part is, I'm going back to the dashboard, is on the top left, you can see the issue prioritization. Now, in this demonstration environment, which is also open to everyone, so you can go in and work through this demonstration environment, what you can see here is that we have more than 4,000 alerts. This is what the tools provide us. The first thing that we're doing, we're actually aggregating the data, removing duplication, because a vulnerability can happen, in code, and then we'll see it through the build time, and then we'll see it in the container, and in runtime, we'll see the same vulnerability. We don't want to see them. So we're removing duplication, normalizing the data. So instead of having multiple tools sharing different types of output, we have one output. But when we take it to the next level, we're curating the data, we're enriching it with threat intelligence, with our own research. We have a very large research team that really helps us to create that level of accuracy. and eventually understanding the environment that we're running in, understanding the business that we're working in, and the attack surfaces, we're able to focus the attention on those 28 criticals. Now, 28 is a number I can work with. So you're probably asking, okay, where do I start? Let's start with those 28. Going into the issue print, I can, of course, see the different issues and how they've been built. By clicking on those 28 criticals, I can now see all the critical issues that OX prioritized for me across the entire application pipeline. These are the actual issues that I need to be solving right now. So I can see posture issues, open source, secret issues, for example, an active GitHub access token. Now, this is really important because I don't want any active access GitHub token exposed. Now, the tool itself says it was a high, but if I look at the severity factors, I really and immediately understand it's an active secret exposure. It's an active code branch. It's a secret of a SaaS, which means attackers can reach it. So really all that severity factors in information, if you can kind of hover over that, you'll be able to understand more information. You'll be able to understand, this is Postgres related, it's lateral movement related, it's single factor authentication. All of that aspects really increase the level of severity from high to critical. Now, we're not stopping there. We're actually going into the description and recommendation, which means that for every issue, we're providing information that you need in order to be able to fix it, to remediate it. This information is automatically sent to the ticket that you can open directly from here. So I just click on Jira, choose the relevant project. Let's do a task. Critical secrets. All the rest of the information is sent to the ticket. It's really easy, it's really simple, and it can shorten the response time really quickly. Now, let's say I want to understand more about that issue. Let's take the open source for another example. With that open source, there's a few elements. First of all, you can see on the right here is that we actually consolidated 22 different issues into that. And we're providing in the recommendation the ability to resolve the direct and indirect. And this is an important aspect because for open source, we can help you build a dependency graph to show you all the other packages that were brought in because you're bringing at that Spring Boot package. We're able to differentiate between direct vulnerabilities and indirect one. Indirect one are usually you don't have anything to do with it because the developer brought one package. That package actually brings other packages. What happens here is that if you don't have that connection, you actually need to go package by package manually, go to the website, search for the vulnerabilities that are tied in to that specific package, which means you can spend days just searching for vulnerabilities and trying to write down and tie everything together. We're doing that for you. We're building that graph for you. We're showing you the commit, which means that we're able to show you exactly who's the person in charge, which line of code is it relevant into. We're enabling you to open a PR, which means that you don't have to wait, for the developers. If you have a good, strong process, you can actually, if you want to, open a PR. The next time the code merge will happen, will get approved, and that's it. You've just fixed that issue. You can analyze more, going through reachable vulnerabilities, ASPM information to understand the package. You have links to the package managers and so on. There's a lot of ASPM check from license, popularity, maintenance, really important, and application info, which application it's relating to, and so on. So we're giving you all that information, but we can even do better. And we can visualize that for you, which means that instead of going through all these screens, you can simply go into the attack path here, and we're adding more information. And from here, start to understand, okay, these are the severity factors. This is why OX says this is critical. And you can see the reachability, exploitability, and business impact, the damage aspect. You can see the application and a link to the app itself, the business priority, the language or the main language. You can see the issue owner, the commit, when it was done. In this case, it was a year ago. Do I care about it? I don't know. That really depends on you. 10 months ago, this was first seen. So it really gives you all that information and then additional information. So with open source, I want to understand the library from the ASPM perspective. I can understand vulnerabilities. If you care about compliance, you can see all the compliance standards that are being affected by this issue, which means that if you want, or in an audit, or you want to make sure that these compliance standards or one of you're using still stays intact, then this issue will have an effect on that compliance standard. And it's also showing you Oscar, which means all the different tactics and techniques that are relating to that. And from this place, you can see description, recommendation, and I can go just for Slack and send a Slack message. Did you see that? Amazing. Okay, just really react and respond to everything from here. I can also go on and change severity or decide to exclude the issue. I can also snooze the issue. So I don't want to see it right now, but in 2 weeks, when I'm finishing this sprint, I want that issue to pop up again. So I can really respond to it based on my protocol, based on what I want to achieve. And that's not over. So right now, we're showing you that we're doing so much work. We're triaging the information for you. We're creating that prioritization. We're aligning the severity and everything we're doing for you, but I still have to click that open Jira button. I still have to click Slack. I still have to open a PR. We've taken a step further in our mission to eliminate manual AppSec. We've introduced the no-code workflows. With the no-code workflows, anyone, practically anyone, can build their own customized workflows. Anything that they're using right now and they're doing manually, and they can build it here. And we've created some examples that you can use, some best practices around that. So for example, let's create a new one. Let's show how we can create a new one. So I'll just click create new issue. Let's do new criticals. This is what we see in most customers. They start with new criticals. They want to see it. Now, I want to see it across the entire pipeline. So any policy, I can say just open source or SaaS or containers, but let's go with any policy. As we've created it, we can see that we have 575 issues that are currently affected by that. Let's add a condition. So our condition is that I want everything that is equal or greater than critical, because in OX, we also have apocalypse. Apocalypse means that stop everything you're doing, really stop everything you're doing and solve this issue right now. This is the means of apocalypse. So I want to know everything. And let's take critical. Now we can see the 28. So remember the 28, okay, that we've looked before. Now we can see that. We can further add conditions, okay? But before we add condition, let's send a Slack message. So let's add a Slack message, choose a channel. I can add parameters as well, and new critical. Now it will give you the information that you need in Slack to better understand that issue. Now, all I have to do is enable this workflow, and immediately every new critical issue, I'll get a Slack message. Now I've gained more confidence in the system. I also want that to open a Jira ticket. So I can do it per application, for application owner or specific project. I can do it, generally speaking, to open a Jira ticket to my project, where I will assign it later on. And now I have Jira tickets. Now, let's say I want to also add another condition. So it's not just critical that I want another condition. I want to make sure that, let's take a severity factor is active. So let's take active secret exposure. No, let's take active attack usage. So if there is an active attack usage, I treat this as something that's very severe, because OX is telling me that this vulnerability is being exploited right now by attackers. This is what it means. which also show that we have 4 here. Now, what I want to do with that, I want to change the severity, and really I want this to be an apocalypse. So I can change the severity because this is what I decided for my organization, but I also want to, let's say, send a Slack message. So I can add another action and then a Slack message. And this is really how you're building that workflow. So we've created that workflow. You can create more. You can see all the issues even before you're enabling the workflow. You can see all the issues that will correspond to that. So if I click on these 4 issues, then I'll see exactly those 4 issues even before enabling that workflow that will be affected by that. So you can see those 4 critical issues that have active exposure. You can see the issue owner, you can see the application. And one more thing that's really amazing is that we're correlating, we're linking between container issues and code issues, which means that we're enabling you to trace everything automatically from cloud back to code. So you can see where that specific issue is located. You can see the different counts. You can see this is the container issue. You can see the different artifacts files and different artifacts from the container issue. And you can go back to the, in this case, open source issue, and then see other aspects like the dependency graph that we're showing you. You can even see the Oscar tactics and techniques that can be used against that specific package. So all the different tactics and techniques that attackers can use. And we're doing more than just that. We're actually showing you for every application that we're mapping automatically, we can show you the risk, the application flow, but also the different Oscars, tactics and techniques, software supply chain tactics and techniques that attackers can use against that application. So in this case, this application has a high business priority. We can see that there's a lot of commits, a lot of unique users. The last code change was about 24 hours ago. So we're understanding that this is something that you're actively working on. And we're showing you that you can see the critical issue around advertised malicious artifact in that example. You can see tags, you can see the criticality. So it actually has one critical issue and one high issue from a posture perspective, and you can see it across the entire PBOM. So PBOM is our technology to map everything to the application pipeline. And finally, you're gaining confidence, you're gaining trust, you're eliminating the friction between the team. You have started to eliminate manual AppSec work. You want to prevent those vulnerabilities from ever reaching your cloud, your production. And you can do it through pipeline integration. So OX allows you to integrate into your pipeline where every code merge is getting inspected, which means that we're also able to prioritize it even before we're doing that. So if you decide that only criticals will be prevented, it's not just about the vulnerability being critical. It's about being critical in your environment, in your business. And this is really unique because we're not just taking the CVSS score and saying, okay, this vulnerability is critical. We're also taking a lot of other context into that, and then we're able to accurately block really critical issues, really what you need to care about. And you can see that issues, you can see that block, you can see other information from that. And you can see this issue was actually blocked from reaching the production. There's additional areas that you can see here, and you can go in and kind of go through that. You can open your own demo, or you can connect your environment. You can connect anything for 21 days. You can do everything. It's a trial. It has all the features open, all the capabilities. You can start connecting your even Slack, Jira if you want. You can start sending yourself messages and so on and so forth. It really is powerful. It really is amazing. And it really is what makes it an active ASPM, because it doesn't rely on the different tools. It doesn't rely just on information provided to it. It actually goes in and actively collects that information, the context from different areas, the intelligence, connects it together using our own research and all the work that we've done for that to really help you eliminate manual AppSec, to restore that balance, to help you scale and innovate. And really, when you're going to development, tell them, listen, you have to fix that. You have full confidence in that decision. And you can explain it from an attacker perspective, from severity perspective, the effects it will have on the business, and so on and so forth. So right now, I'd like to take the rest of the time and really respond to your questions. So feel free to write your questions in the Q&A section, and I'm really going to go through that right now and really talk about it. So the first question is, does OX push updates and patches to software or code? What we're offering is, first of all, we're offering a multi-layer approach. One is being able to open a Jira ticket, as I've shared before. Second is to open a PR. So for SEA issues, an example, you can open a PR that once approved will go into code. Sorry, it will go into build, which means that you don't have to get the developer to do it. You just need to see that and approve it. Again, it really depends on your processes. Further is the ability to create a workflow to react to that automatically in real time. And finally, to be able to stop or prevent the vulnerable code from ever reaching production. Now, the developers will see that in the logs. So the build will fail, and what they'll see, or the merge will fail, and what they'll see all the information they need in order to understand what they need to do in order to solve it. As I've shared with you, they don't need to go into our dashboard. They can, if you allow them, but they don't have to. So how does OX determine risk prioritization? Okay, so we've explained that, and you're right about risk being subjective, and this is exactly what we're doing. We're actively collecting information from your environment, from your business, from the way that the attack is relating to your environment, which really means that we're not just showing you vulnerabilities based on CVSS score, or if everybody's talking about some sort of vulnerability, then it has to be critical. No, it's not the case. It really is, for example, if the application you're developing is not deployed yet. So you've only built an artifact, you have that artifact in your registry, and that's it. Is it critical? If the other severity factors indicate that it's critical, then it might be critical before you're deploying it. But if the other severity factors indicate it's not critical, then there's no reason, because we don't see it's deployed or exposed to the internet, there's no reason to push the criticality higher. Another question, we don't require any sensor or agent deployed. So it's API based, it's agentless, which means that you can connect in less than 2 minutes. You can connect, it will automatically start scanning everything, collecting the information, consolidating it, enriching it, triaging it for you, curating it, dividing it into different categories, and prioritizing it for you. So this is done automatically. All you have to do is just connect it to your source control, CI/CD, registry in cloud. Source control, of course, is mandatory. CI/CD, registry, highly recommended. And cloud, it really depends on your environment and the way you want to deploy it. It's also recommended because we can trace back issues directly to the owner. Can sensitive data or results be processed via an internal setup versus sending to OX? Yes. So we have two flavors. That's a very good question. We have two flavors. The first flavor is a SaaS flavor, what I've shared with you right now. The SaaS flavor allows you to directly use OX without any maintenance, any installment, nothing. Just connect and start using OX. The second flavor is what we call on-premise. You get the entire platform within your environment. So you can deploy it in your environment, and then you can connect it to your resources. It will have the same effect. The only difference is that, for example, when we're pulling updates or in Intel from the internet, then we'd like to have that kind of connection open to be able to pull in information. We're not sharing information. just pulling in information, helping with that layer of correlation and prioritization. Let's see if we have additional questions. So this was answered. Fantastic. Very good. We've just completed our introduction to Active ASPM. I really hope that you had a good time and understood a little bit more about OX security. What I'm showing you right now is that you can try it right now. Okay, so let me just put the slide on. What you can see, you can try it right now. You can go and browse to the OX website, click Start Free, and start using the system. So I really recommend doing so. You can choose to try the OX demo. As you're signing in, you have an option to try the OX demo. You can see the same demo. Don't worry, you're not going to break anything, so that's fine. Feel free to use it. If you want to connect your environment, that's even better. You can do so side by side without interfering your current processes, your current tools. It will not create any kind of interference. So I welcome you all to do so. I would like to thank you all for staying with me, for listening to us, and have a great rest of the day. Stay active and see you soon.